If you're a fan of this channel, you're fully aware that fantasy is one of my favourite genres of role-playing games. And today I'm going to be taking a look at Tales of Argosa, which is a sword and sorcery low fantasy RPG from independent publisher Pickpocket Press. Before I get into that, this is my channel. My name is Adrian from Dungeons and Dyslexia. My channel covers role-playing news, reviews and crowdfunding. I do have a Facebook page that I'm now starting to post on and a Discord, both of which you can find in the description of the channel. So as I go through the review, I call these reviews the good, the bad and the arty. So I will look at what's good in the book, what's bad at the book. All the while we'll take a look at the art together. We'll look through the book page by page as we're going through it. And at the end, I will give it a score out of 10. Before I get into the book, the first thing I'm going to do is just jump straight over and we will have a look at DTRPG. So where can you pick up the book when you buy this after my review? Spoilers coming up. I do really like this. So here we've got the DTRPG page. So it's available on PDF. It is currently under the DM's discount, so you can pick it up for $15.42. So that's probably about $19 American dollars. It's also available in softcover, hardcover, and you can get the PDF versions with soft and hardcover. If you're going to buy this book, please do use my affiliate link because it does help me put the money towards buying additional books and more content for the channel. Say it is currently under the GM's digital title discounts that's running on DTRPG. So one of the slight spoilers here coming up. One of the disadvantages I found with this book is there are no adventures, there is no sort of world in the book or no DM screen, because the version of the copy I got, incredibly kindly by Steve, who wrote this game, I got a print-on-demand copy. It is a review. Well, it's not a review copy. Basically, just sent me a copy for free. Didn't ask me to do this review, but I wanted to do it because it is absolutely fantastic. But my version, print-on-demand, doesn't come with any bits inside here. So, okay. Starter version, and I believe it actually comes with it within the cover. However, they have got you covered because you can download the GM screen here off DTRPG for free. And as I said, there is no world as such in this, but there are several adventures also on DTRPG freely available. So Pickpocket Press and Steve have more than got you covered when you do pick this up. Okay, so that's it. That's me. I think I've wasted enough time. Let's just get into the book. So here we have the front cover of the book, say Tales of Argosa. It's a sword and sorcery adventure. So my copy is 249, say 268, I think, the DTRPG, because it's got some of the tables built within the copy that you will buy from there. So most of the artwork throughout the book is this black and white sort of, I think it's classed as pencil drawing or line drawings. So just showing you through. So it's going to appear throughout the book. Variety of different artists were used. Okay, so here's the front cover. All ready for action, fighting. Wow, what are these? Nagas, I'm guessing, and some giant snake type creature in the background. The credits here. So the author is Steve Grodzicki, who he did send me this copy to, well, he's just basically said, do you want to have a look at the copy of my book? We started actually talking over YouTube because he's got his own YouTube channel and a Discord as well. I will link both of which in the video description for this. So it's his company, Pickpocket Press, and this is the version that he sent me. So he then Okay, so let's just get into the contents of the book. And as you can see here, the contents is over 2 pages. It covers what's in Argosa, character creation, attributes, classes, all the way through the combat, GM rules, hirelings, madness tables, traps, treasure, variety, and then some if there's not enough in here, there's some additional variant rules. Throughout the rule book, there are variant rules as well, so there are certain aspects, but I'll cover this as we go through it. There's a fair amount to get through, so this doesn't end up to being a 2-3 hour video. I will be shortening some of the bits that we look at, okay? So core features here is this just really summarizes what's coming up. So we've got 9 classes in the game. It's a D20 based system. Level 9 is the cap, so it does cap out. So once you go to level 10, your characters retire. Flatter HP, you'll start with more HP at first level, but it doesn't increase as much. So you are a little bit more secure in kind of knowing that your character isn't necessarily going to die at first level. We've got some unique features. Every third level, you're going to get some specific features for your players. They can create their own with DM discretion. Roll under for attribute checks, roll over for attacks. There are some skills in the game, and I'll talk about how the skills change. We've got willpower and perception, which then replaces the wisdom stat. Minor, major, and rescue exploits, faster initiative, diminishing luck rolls, fierce battles, unbalanced combat, which is deliberate, short rests. Magic is a lot rarer in this world and incredibly dangerous, but ultimately super powerful. There's a downtime rules for carousing, pets, black markets, gambling, recovery, potions, and then they've got, if that isn't enough, there are specific rules for group play and encouraging the party to be a party that works together if you are struggling because for a variety of reasons you now prefer to solo play, or you haven't got any players available, or you just want to learn the rules. There are solo rules in this as well. It's just absolutely, I said from the outset, this is your player's guide, DM's guide, and Monsters Manual all into one. It does lack a world, does lack a first level adventure to get going. Steve's more than covered that because he has thrown those in for free on Drive-Thru RPG. Example here, how to play. So if you're, these are always really good sections. I'd put this after a little bit because I find them a little bit, it doesn't really mean anything to me for now. But once I've read the rules, I kind of want the how to play example a little further on. While I talk about layout of the book, the fonts used and colour, and overall the size of it has been absolutely fantastic to read for me. There aren't many books that I can actually pick up and just read straight the way through. I haven't found this book tiring, where I get very distracted normally when I read. I get very tired, and I don't, elements of easily distracted, dyslexia, variety of things that go on. But so I've just managed to pick this up and just read it all the way through. And say it's a really good combination of, say, layout, colour, fonts used, and size as well. Character creation is 17 steps, but I'll talk about that as we go through a little bit more, I think, when we start actually looking at some of the races, because 17 sounds a lot. It's not really, but you have got backgrounds here, and you can randomly roll the backgrounds or pick them. Me personally, because it's got the old school feel to it, I'd encourage players to randomly roll as much as they can here. 7 attributes in the game. Most will sound familiar: strength, dex, constitution, intelligence. No wisdom, perception, and willpower replace wisdom, charisma, and then we've got initiative. So technically an 8th attribute there, but it's only an initiative. The rest work exactly how you think they're going to work from a sort of 5th edition or old school point of view. So, strength does physical attacks, and melee, dexterity, sort of covers your AC, constitution, hit points, intelligence, does with spells and things that Perception in this game represents your aim, so that actually does your range as well. And then willpower is your sort of your mental fortitude, and for NPCs, the morale checks, because who doesn't love a good game? You don't have to kill everything to 0 hit points. In the real world, most people run away if they think they're losing. Even animals run off. So it's got good morale rules when we get into that. Charisma, obviously, and then initiative, it just runs the initiative. Attribute modifiers are very familiar. 17 to 18 is 3, 13 to 14 plus 1. Luck. This, I'm going to say, maybe, I don't know, I haven't spoken to Steve, but this seems to very much borrow the luck roll from almost Call of Cthulhu essence. So when you are rolling any skills or anything to pass, you are looking to roll, let's just go back to the attributes quickly, looking under to roll. 20 is automatic fail, 1 is a critical. And then there's some slightly other variance that goes on here as well. But luck works in exactly the same way. So if there are certain instances where you need to dodge something, you know, it be a trap, you would roll under your luck. Luck starts at 10 plus level, and there is a variance depending on the race that you are going to be as well. But if you then roll, so you roll your D20, you're looking to get equal or under. If you succeed, you would dodge it, but your luck roll then, your luck points, so to speak, reduced by 1, so it becomes harder. If you fail that roll, it doesn't actually cost you any luck. And luck returns at the rate of 1 point per long rest. We'll come on to long rests in a bit. They're slightly different, considerably different actually, to what you've experienced in 5th edition. Some races to play. There are 5 races in the core rulebook. So we've got humans, dwarfs, elves, halflings, and scorn. Well, half scorn, I should say. The races sort of work how you would expect them to. So the halflings, elves, and dwarfs, you know, they have got their own uniqueness to this. So there's none of this, you know, every race is the same now. So it does separate them. The scorn. Half Scorn, the Scorn are covered in the Monsters Manual, well, the Monsters section towards the end. They're slightly taller than humans, they've got pinkish skin, so they are as far as I can work out, a unique race to this world. Hit points, we said they start with higher hit points, but it's a flatter curve, so it doesn't just keep exploding up, so you can end up with things around about 100 hit points. This, it looks like, I think, you know, I haven't run anything else to 9th level, so which is the cap of the game, but that does seem to flatten out around about 30-35 hit points. We've got a wounded here, which is a great thing, and anything with hit points I think should have this. We run this in our home games. We stole it from AD&D, well not AD&D, D&D 4th edition, which was the blooded keyword. So once you got to half hit points or less, creatures became blooded. So we still use that expression, so people have got a guide. Wounded is what that is in here, but also similar to 4th edition. Once a creature is wounded, it does allow it. Some creatures have additional powers. Some of the player characters will have new powers that they can start doing once they get down to there. Variety of things happen when you level up, so you will gain some attributes and then you will get some class abilities, and every 3rd level you will get a unique feature. So the game itself, so we've got some, I think it was 9, so we've got Artificer, Bard, Barbarian, Cultist, all the while wonderful art going through. Cultist is the first of the magic classes. This is technically your sort of cleric class. And they do sort of the blessings and pray to gods to gain their sort of tenets and favours here. And then we've got Fighter, as you'd imagine, is your out-and-out fighter. Magic user, wizard, warlock, that sort of class. Monk, and then finally, sorry, ranger and then rogue. So I'm going to just pick on the rogue so we can get an idea. So you will have a key attribute, which is the main attribute. Some of them actually do have a prerequisite, so it has to be over a certain score. Again, this will be from 1 to, I think it's about 16. Stats can go to 20 or 20 or above. But as a general rule for players, you're not going to go over initially around about sort of 16. You say you will get a certain amount of starting hit points, weapons, proficiencies technically, armor, starting gear, and then you will have a certain amount of skills. Every time you level up, you will get your level bonuses. So from here, you've got 1 all the way through to 9. Your AB is your attack bonus. That will add to your, when you roll into attack, it's a D20 roll over. I'll get onto that when we get into the sort of skills of the game and how it actually works. And then you'll have some abilities that are standard. And you will say, I said, well, you get these sort of special techniques every 3 levels, so unique features here. So, but before we get to the unique features, which you get every 3rd level, party bond, this is an optional rule. It's not optional, it should be mandatory. I'm not an optional rule person in rule books. I kind of think if you think it's good enough to make it an optional rule, just make it part of the rule. I think if you allow people to have stuff and then take things out, it's just me as a personal, I would rather have things in that players can take out than things that are out that they can add in. It's just me personally, but this is something that I would encourage all players to do. It means you're going to do your session 1, session 0 together. The players rolling characters together as well, because party bonds will give, it's a reason why the party are together, the sort of friendship, sort of camaraderie, the loyalty that party members will have from one another within the game. And I think this is quite important. If you're running a Dark Sun adventure where no one knows each other, it doesn't matter. But if you're having a cohesive party that are designed to all be friends, you're going to want to encourage the party bonds. Hence the reason. And you can roll it or pick it. Roll it. I would, and it'll just tell you, tell the players why they get along. Unique features. This is actually unique to this game. Not the powers themselves, but the way that it's done. So every third level, so 3rd, 6, and 9, I'm struggling to add up then, you will have a unique power, and you can pick it from this list, or you can pick your own. And what I really like about that is if you want your character to be slightly different, because one of the biggest problems with a level-based system is it's very linear in what it does. So every level you will get this, and then you get this, and there are other games you go, actually, I kind of want to do this now, and this game will allow you, because it will allow you to either take these features and change them, or you can create your own. Obviously, you've got to work with a games master, and he will decide what you can have. But because of the way these unique features are done, and there's examples, so Armor Master here, there are 3 different levels. So one will come in at 3rd, 1 6th, 1 9. It just should give the players and the games master the sort of power that the writers of this book are going for, so you don't end up with some ultra powerful characters that are just going to go away and break the game. Skills grant you, if you try to do anything in the game, and if it's related to one of your attributes, all you're doing is rolling under to beat that attribute, which means all attributes in this game are important. And what a skill does is a skill breaks the attribute slightly. If you've got a strength of 15, for argument's sake, and then you need to make a athletics roll, and you don't have the athletics skill, you will be rolling a d20, and you're looking to get 15 or less. If you have the athletic skill, it'll add +1 to your attribute, so you've got to roll 16 or less, so it's going to be easier to pass. More importantly, you do get re-rolls in this game. You can spend a re-roll if you have a skill in something. You can't spend your re-roll if you don't. There are also some skills that will have an asterisk, which means basically if you haven't got the skill, you can't attempt it. So think of these like sort of specialist knowledge. So there'll be certain aspects where, if you're not trained in traps or things like that, you're not going to be able to fix a trap, or there might be one of the laws or knowledge that if you don't actually have the divination law, you might not know the religious aspect to it, so you might automatically fail it if you're not trained in it. Equipment is done in a nice way. It's nice and simple. Everything's got cost and values. So I've read some books recently where they do, I find it a little bit lazy, where they don't actually put a price in to buy something, and they just put, this is common, this is rare, roll a skill to try and achieve whether you find it. It's all got prices, costs in here. It's got weights. There are encumbrance rules in there. I'm probably one of the laziest games masters as my players. I don't tend to worry about encumbrance. I think it should be encouraged in the game, but my players, we've kind of been playing together long enough to not really take advantage of the fact I don't care about encumbrance. We do have a reality check if someone's trying to carry 15 spears with them. Skills, we've got this section here where natural 19. So this is a little bit of a wiggle that I don't think I've ever seen in a game before. So because when you are rolling under or trying to achieve anything, you're rolling under in the game. However, in combat, you're rolling over. So it is a little bit of a painful complication that everything's under, everything's your tribute, everything's under. However, once you get into an attacking situation, you are suddenly attacking over. And because 20s are always bad, you then get into the attacking system where 20 is good. 20 is a natural critical. But we have got this natural 19 as well. So 20 crit, 19 natural. It will also do something in addition to the normal damage. So, for example, here we've got a club here. So a 20 would be a critical, but a 19 will do a D10, but it will also do blade trauma as well. So it's going to do something else. The ranged weapons are exactly the same. We've then got all the rules for armor. Armor works as you'd imagine in 5th edition or sort of those editions. It just adds to your AC, so the difficulty is to hit. We've then got sort of Master Forge, so better than normal weapons. Doing things, this is the Games Master. Well, it's not the Games Master, it's the sort of how to play the game, effectively. So we have got, what's that, 5 different checks. We've got attribute checks, attack rolls, luck rolls, montages, and random checks. Attributes checks, as I said, you take your attribute, you're rolling equal or less than to achieve something. So nearly everything in the game is roll under. So think Call of Cthulhu, that sort of Chaosium basic rules. Whatever you've got in your attribute, you're looking to roll that or less to achieve something. If you've got a skill, you get +1 to it. There are other circumstances where you can have additional +1s if you're like working as a part of a team, things like that. So that it is covered in the rules. You can re-roll off that. Luck rolls, again, roll under. Montage, abstracted actions over a period of time. I'll come on to that. It's a brilliant rule. As I said from outset, there's so much brilliance in this book. Attack rolls are the only things that are going to confuse you because you're suddenly going from rolling under, you're rolling over. But when we get to the combat section, you'll be like, okay, this is incredibly familiar because everything makes sense. We've got great success and terrible failure. So if you are skilled in something, you get the chance to have a great success or a terrible failure. And a great success is if you're rolling equal to or less than half of the attribute. Terrible failure, more than 1.5 times. So I'll make the maths easy. Let's say, for example, you've got a skill of 10 in strength and you're going to do an athletics check. And if you roll a 4 or less, you will have a great success. If you roll a 16 or more, you will have a terrible failure. It's as simple as that. There is a chart in here and the chart's on the Games Master screen. So you've got no excuse when you have to come and do your maths. Opposed rolls. There is no automatic drawing or attack or defenders win. You can, if you can make it interesting. So example, if 2 people are jumping to gain a vial on the floor and they both fail it, you can actually have it not re-roll it, or it doesn't go one way. You can have them both knock it away and it falls further away, goes off a cliff, whatever it may be, or you can get them to re-roll it. So it's up to you as the games master as how that's going to work. Montages, love this. This is an abstract way of completing a scene that could otherwise take a whole evening or a few hours. Let's say you want to do a heist and you're running towards the end of the adventure, the amount of time that you've got, or the players go, oh, do we have to do this heist? And what you can do is this montage where you can have a variety of roles. You get all of the party around to do certain roles, and it says here you will accumulate up to 6 successes, and you will just get them rolling over a period of time. And once they achieve a certain amount of successes, failures, they'll either succeed in their endeavor or fail. So it can just save a lot of time. I'm using, say you might want to do the heist yourself, but hopefully you get the point there. Encounters. When you meet NPCs, being an old school game, there are an element of creatures that they might like you or hate you when they interact with you. And it's just some random roles here for how you would actually interact with the NPCs. And then we are straight into combat. And combat is very familiar for anyone that's played 5th edition, Pathfinder, any sort of D20 and add to the roll. So you start with initiative, as always, work out the turn order, which is quite quick because you're only getting one person to roll the initiative. The morale, if they start taking a certain amount of hit points, the leader is damaged, then the NPCs might run away. You've got this finishing rule. So when the morale breaks, if you want to murder hobo the party, the NPCs without them running out. Looking at you, Rob, one of my players is a terrible murder hobo when creatures are running away. It will just allow you to, there's some rules here for just killing them off instantly via a luck roll. How far they can move in melee combat, close, far, and very far. You can do double moves. So that's probably should have said in your actions, you are basically doing movement and attack, which isn't there. But you can just do double moves, charge, intercept. Intercept is clever. I haven't seen this in a game before. So this is a way where if you haven't gone yet and the NPC are about to attack, for example, your mage, you can make an initiative check, and if you pass that initiative check, you can actually jump ahead in the initiative because you haven't gone yet to go and intercept. It's really clever because a lot of the times your wizard will be dead by that point and no one's got to do anything. There's lots of games that allow rules to delay your initiative. This one does this as well, but this allows you to jump up in initiative to go and protect someone. Really good rule. I don't think I've ever seen this before. I'm going to keep saying this throughout. This does some really clever stuff. Party retreat, chases. I hate chase sequences in so many games, especially 5th edition, where everything's we all run at 30 feet, so you can never catch them up, never lose them. This resolves chases in an incredibly good way, where you are doing some rolls and then you've got some chase effects and events that take place in the chase sequence that will randomly have an impact on gaining distance or closing distance. Gaining distance or getting further away. Closing distance is the same thing as gaining. I appreciate that. We've then got, it will detail a bit more about the action, so you can make an attack, cast a spell, dodge, drink a potion, activate a magical amulet, sheathing or stowing a weapon, or retrieving an item from the ground. Then things like locking picks, disarming traps, etc. Range combat and melee combat are dealt with the same way. So it's D20, you add your class modifier and then your strength modifier. For ranged attack, you add your class modifier plus a D20 plus your perception. Nothing there should sound unfamiliar other than the fact, remember, skills under, attacks over. And then you just roll your damage and you deduct the damage if you've exceeded or equaled the AC, it's the armor class of the creature, to do take that from their health. Critical, say you roll a 20, it's critical. You roll a 19, you get the nat 19 for the weapon that you're using. Ones are fumbles. You can try and dodge in there. We've got some major and minor exploits in here, but these are things where if you want to do something else in addition to the attack, I'll leave you to discover it. But it's stuff like, if you want to do it after attacking someone, you want to do a shield bash or do an additional sort of sidestep. There are things like that you can. Rules for rescuing. So once per adventure, if someone is going to fall off a cliff during a combat or going to be hit by a magical trap, you can make a luck roll and try and sort of jump. So it's only once per adventure, but you can try and jump in to grab them, to pull them away, just to stop that additional stuff. Got some fighting styles here: 2-weapon, unarmed, 2-handed, mounted. Then the impact of visibility, fighting underwater, flanking, drowning, suffocating, aerial combat, etc. Conditions. We're used to seeing these from other games, so blind, burning, dazed, encumbered. I like the burning rules because you can make a will check, and if you pass that will check, you can do something other than try and putting out the flames. And that all important and thing that I really like is that wounded effect here. So a character at half hit points below is wounded, and it doesn't do anything. It just lets everyone know they're at half hit points, which is incredibly important if you are fighting, especially boss monsters. But there are certain creatures and certain PC powers that kick in once you are wounded. Death saves and dying. 0 hit points doesn't automatically kill you, but unless you can get some magical healing, you don't know until at the end of the combat whether that person is alive or dead, and it's going to be a dice roll to decide. So you'll see your friend go down. Unless you can get some magical healing during the combat, they are not going to pop back up. They will then make a death save, and they will either be dead when you get to them, or they'll be alive, and you'll be able to stabilize them with 1 hit point. They'll then also be rolling on this injuries and setback. You know that I love injuries and setbacks. This is very Warhammer Warhammer Fantasy role playing. You know, any sort of random damage, or missing ears or arms is just, I find it really interesting. So yeah, this is with the missile trauma, toxic trauma. We're then into healing and recovery. So we have got a short rest, healer's kits, other types of gears, sleeping, and long rests. However, short rests are really short. They are a few minutes. And if you do the short rest, you can roll a willpower. You have 2 willpower checks, and you can do things like gain a few hit points back of the damage, half of the damage you took in the combat, get a reroll back, get one of your used class abilities back. Or if you want everything back, you can take a long rest. And the long rest, you can get all your hit points back, you can get all your abilities back, all your rerolls, all your attributes lost. You recover 1 luck point. But a long rest takes 7 days lying in bed doing very little else. It is designed to be old school, brutal. You don't pop up in the morning, got all your hit points back, everyone in the party's got healing. So there's only 2 different types of magic users in the game, and only one of those can heal well. The other one doesn't seem to be able to heal that well. It's good. It means you've got to make real important decisions if you want to get into combat. You will try and talk and socialize your way out of it. It means that players don't just go, I've got a really low stat, charisma, put it in charisma, because you have got the interactions and the random chance that people might like you when you first meet them. It's not everything, not every encounter means that a thief is going to automatically try and attack you when you first meet them, or you're going to attack them because something goes wrong. You can take a critical and you can drop down dead. You haven't got huge amounts of hit points, huge amount of health. Now, sorcery. Like I said from outset, sorcery is few and far between. It is incredibly dangerous, but ultimately really powerful. You will have a certain amount of spells you can cast during the day, and there are certain limits that you can, like times you can cast that spell. You will also have to roll to succeed in casting the spell, but you will get your reroll to this because it is a skilled check, effectively. And you can, when you're casting spells, you can have a great success, which we've talked about, less than half, success, failure, terrible failure. And the other thing that it does, we'll look at some of the spells when we get into it, because there are no leveled spells in this game. There are just spells or no spells. So you either know a spell or you don't. So there's none of these, Wish comes in at 9th level, so which is 18th level as a player, or 19th level, can never quite remember, I think it's 19th. This is all the spells that are available, you can learn and know at level 1 and cast at level 1. And how it sort of keeps it to being, stops players abusing the spells. Obviously, you've got a certain amount of spells you can cast, and you've got a difficulty to achieve, but you've got this dark and dangerous magic D100 table here, and you get the same thing as well with the divine blessings and rebukes, so a separate table. So what this does is every time you cast a spell, you will roll a die, and depending on the level of the spell will determine the die that is rolled. So for example, if your character's a first level, it's a D8, 4th level D10, D12 for 7th level, and a magic item is roll a D20. And if you're rolling natural 1 on that roll, you will then roll on the dark and dangerous for the magic user, or the divine blessing and rebukes if you are the cultist. It's not quite as simple as that though, because the next time you cast a spell and you haven't rolled on this, you'll be rolling the same die, and the difficulty goes up to 2. So if you roll a 1 or 2, so you're going to need a separate die to roll, just put it next to the magic users, which is how we used it. And so if they've cast a 3rd spell in the day, Or then what will happen is if they roll a 3 or less on that die, so every time they cast a spell, there's going to be more and more chances that this is going to happen and something incredibly bad is going to happen to the players. So it's got an element of push your luck in, which I think people will either like or hate. I thought it was brilliant because spells, when we start looking at them and the fact there are no levels for the spells, so you can cast Fireball from level 1, it does mean that players have to really think about, do I want to be casting these spells in here? So here is the full spell list. You also, when you create your characters, you are randomly rolling spells. You don't get to just pick Fireball, Lightning Bolt, Phase Door, Pierce the Veil, whatever it may be, Rain of Stone. You will have to randomly roll. You can learn, you do learn spells as you adventure and find things, so you're not kind of just stuck with it. But say all the spells in here will give the range, the duration, and it is just an ability for each spell, which I think is really brilliant. And then the same thing with ritual magics, but ritual magics are slightly more powerful and will need components to pull off. We're then into downtime. Here's a wonderful example here, sort of making things, gambling, drinking. I can't think what hawking is. Is it hawking? That doesn't sound right. Or reading and learning. I can't think what hawking is. Obviously, you can advance your level. So during your downtimes, you will go up certain levels, and you've got experience for that. Different loots and explorations, things you can go on. Carousing, which is a way of spending gold to gain experience. Black market trading to go and buy those items that are harder to find. We've got gambling rules, but gambling is gambling's done in a way that says it's quite difficult to make a lot of money, because obviously if you can gamble and make lots of money, then why would you ever leave the house? There are people I know that don't leave the house that do gamble. You can have pets and monstrous pets. You can make your own potions and brewings, recover if you need to, even recovering the madness and persistent injuries, research into new spells and magical items. And then there's just a section here of rumours and scrolls. GM tool section. This is a huge section here. I'm just blitzing through a little bit to give you an example of what's coming up. But this is just, I said from outset, there is no world in this, but it does allow you that you can turn up at your friend's house and go, okay, let's build a dungeon. Let's build a load of random encounters just to go and explore. You've got hex exploration, how all that works, what's going to come in the different hexes, overland, underground, and voyage travel events, different things for days and nights, random encounters, and then back to base. If you need to abstractly speed on back to a city, because again, running to this, we all have this when we're playing a game, is we'll get to the end of the session, especially when we get to our age, where someone's yawning going, oh no, it's like 10:15 and we've still got to get back, we've got 3 days travel and I want to wrap up the adventure. And what this allows you to do is just, you can put them back in the city, then have a couple of random tables of things that happened on the way there, just to make it a little bit more interesting, throw some stuff out. And it's got swamps, ice, snow, roads, oceans, plains, grassland, lots of random tables. Hirelings. I keep saying this, that I love this section. Hirelings is brilliant. This is you hiring a mercenary to come along, which really reminds me of especially very early Dungeons and Dragons editions. And I think this is something that's really lost in later versions, where you kind of want to hire a mercenary that will help boost the size of the party, have skills into the party that you don't necessarily have, and it will give them a name, a personality, the trait that they may have. But more importantly, once they complete an adventure with them, you will then roll on this Highland advancement table. And as they advance with you, they can gain additional skills, re-rolls, or if you roll high enough and treat them well, because you have to treat them nicely. Well, I forgot they're going to have a catchphrase, which is really annoying. Because basically, you give someone a catchphrase, and as an NPC, you've got to make sure that they say that. At least it doesn't say it in the rules, 2 or 3 times a session to make the hireling annoying. But it does mean if they persist with this hireling, they can actually level up to first level. And if they achieve first level, they're going to get a proper first level character with first level skills traveling around with them, which is an incredibly good thing to have. You create this personality and this hireling that comes with them, and then they will become a proper henchman that is going to, say, hit first level and be loyal to the PC. Madness rules, as you'd imagine, it's not as you'd imagine. Why would you imagine it? But if you played things like Call of Cthulhu, any of those sort of games where you will have mental trauma on the players, it does say you don't have to include that. You've got to include it. You have to include it, because it's just another way of making not only a game more interesting, but a sort of threat to the players, as opposed to just that, physical damage, being able to attack mentally or take confidence off or give players. Some of the most interesting PCs I've had in my adventures when I've run them are people with phobias, or that they have some mania where they have to go and attack a certain type of creature. It just makes characters a bit more interesting. We're then into the section for monsters, which is pretty big. It's very much a full built-in to-go monster manual for most creatures you're going to think of. But if you then want to change those creatures, I'm just scrolling back to the start of the monster manual, so it's just showing you. So each of the monsters, they'll have their own armor class, hit points, attacks, natural 19 abilities, as well as obviously on the crits. We've got the random monster table here, if you want to do it by HD, by their hit dice, but they have any reaction, special abilities, recharge, and harvesting the dead. So if you need to take parts of their body, like if you've played anything like The Witcher, this is what it allows you to do. Bosses, if you want to boss up a bugbear, for argument's sake. So we've got a bugbear here, standard stats. So all bugbears in this game will pretty much be the same. However, you can use the boss special traits to boss up a undead. A boss up a, I was reading ahead then, boss up a bugbear. Or you can make it an undead or demonic bugbear, which will then change some of the stats, or just a heavy. So it's better than a bugbear, not quite as good as a boss. It's a heavy, so you could have a couple of these. So it just allows the players to, we know exactly what a bugbear does, because I think the more experienced players become with different creatures, they will know what to expect. And there's nothing funnier than going, here's a boss bugbear with additional hit points, this special immunity to something. It's just a little bit, considerably more interesting. Like so, when you have the heavy, you can roll on this table. They're going to have something addition that they won't expect. In here, so we have got standard animals as well. So we've got cats, dire bears, dire animals, as well as bears and boars. And then, so we are straight through for demons, dinosaurs, giants, humans, oozes, everything. I think that there aren't many things not included in here. Or there are rules, I'm not going to go back to it, for lycanthropy as well, which is always good. Oracle rules. So the game does come with, and you can buy them off DTRPG, a pack of cards, which is an Oracle deck. And, the Oracle dice. Consult the bones, isn't it? So you can roll the dice if you consult with the Oracle. You can buy the dice, or it has got rules here for the alternative way that you're going to create the dice. So that's absolutely fine and got you covered. And so this would, if you're going to go and see an oracle and ask, are we going to be attacked within the next 3 nights? You can roll the dice out in front of them, and it will give the answer. Same thing with reading the cards, which is it's an abstract way of sort of reading the future and things that are going to go on. The cards are available on DriveThruRPG. Rival Adventurers. Oh, this always reminds me of that scene in Shaun of the Dead. I don't know if you've watched it, where they're walking down the back alley, and then they see the party coming the other way. That is exactly that. They're dressed the same as them, and they sort of cross over and look at each other. This is Rival Adventurers. Simple as that. And then we are into the solo rules section. So there is a huge so being able to play this solo is a really lovely way to spend a few evenings with it, say learning the game, but also because of the GM section, actually I won't scroll back, you can just do a lot solo here, and especially then back with if you get the signed the cards and the dice on. Traps, huge section on traps, on making how to make traps, the cost of traps. So if you want to put traps in your base or wherever your PCs are living, or protect your NPCs' castles. Treasures are divided into sort of basic loots, more valuable loots, and random tables here as well. And then we've got lair treasures, so more interesting, well, more wealth worth of treasure, and then minor and major magical items, as well as rules of making magical items. And then finally, is this the books, isn't it? I think, yeah, Magic Grimoires. So there are 12 sort of famous magical books in the game that will teach the players specific spells or rights that they can have. Finally, we're then looking into minor charms and major charms, which are, again, more magical items. And these major magical items, an attunement rule is, again, I'm going to say something I really like. Attunement is not quite how you think it's going to be. When you think of attunement, you take a magical item, you attune it to you, you can use that magical item. Not quite. We'll look at this shield here of Argaunt. And it has got 3 first, second, and third levels. So when you attune the shield, you will have the first level ability only. When you go up the next level, you will open up the second power. When you go up a third level, you will open up the third power. So as your player levels up and is more attuned to the magical item, you will get more uses out of that magical item. A little bit like in Thundercats, where I don't know if you remember how the Sword of Omens just it had whatever magical powers it needed to as the series went on. It started with a couple of powers of things it could do, and by the end of the second season it could cast fireballs out of it. Not quite like that, but I just remember the sword gun. This is a pretty handy sword. It's like Doctor Who's screwdriver. The uses and powers for it change dramatically for whatever's required for the plot. So we've then got a few variant rules here. I don't mind these being thrown at the back, but if you want to make the game more deadly or less deadly, or you can make it, say, go back to individual initiative rolls, etc. We've then got the index at the back, which is pretty thorough. Okay, so that is the book. So we've seen super artwork throughout. So I'm just going to scroll back quickly so we can sort of recap on ourselves, as what I didn't do, I appreciate I haven't done, is talked a huge amount about the art, and I think that's because this is quite a big tome and it contains an awful lot on here. So let's just get back to the start of the book. Future aid here. I've just gone through my hard copy because when I was recording off the PDF, I've obviously got a slightly earlier copy of what's actually out, because there was bits I was confused on, because when I was looking at my copy, the solo rules are larger in this rule book, so there are more things included in the copy you're going to get off Drive Through RPG. There are naval combat rules as well as mass army and mass attack rules. So if you think of, you need to do a Helm's Deep type encounter, which in fancy rule books are always really difficult and abstract to do, but this book has got you more than covered in that, as well as this really fun table for basically it's like large events that go on, but it's like the naval combat section in the book here. There aren't many books that cover naval combat and artillery as well, all the boarding rules. So there's more solo rules in this book. So yeah, the copy that you're going to get is slightly increased to what I showed as well as so there are more variant rules as well in this copy of the book. That's me. That's Future Adrian disappearing. Now back to the original recording. we will go through the scores really. So what do I think is good about it? So first thing that is good is simple rules. It's you just roll a d20, get it under your stat. If you've got a skill in it, you add +1 to it. If you can find any form of advantage from the players, you can get an extra +1. If you fail that, you get a reroll. It does make things simple. Combat, I don't want to say everyone should understand what combat and how combat works, but I think predominantly everyone now knows and understands D20 rollover. The chase rules and hireling rules, things like the random tables and stuff, are brilliant. I really enjoy Warhammer Fantasy and any of those games that have random tables. I hate chase sequences in most games. This does it really well because of that random table that goes in there, well, the random events. The hireling rules, so unique. I don't think I've ever seen where you can change a hireling into an actual sort of NPC that's going to hang around with the party, that you're not going to have to pay anymore because, you know, whatever form of loyalty that they get for them. Combat rules are easy. Spell rules, nice. I actually really like the fact that there are no spell levels, and as a player and as a games master, you haven't got to worry about, you know, are they the right level to cast that spell. If the spell's available in the game, you can cast it. Yes, you're going to have to think about the impact of those bad things happening, or you might need to go and atone for yourself if anything goes wrong from a divination spell point of view. But that's how it should be. You know, if you're going to have incredibly powerful stuff, there's got to be a downside to it. Wounded, I've just written here. Brilliant. So we've been using Blooded for a long time, and any hit-based system should automatically include a wounded type condition. So not only the player characters know that the creature is at 50% hit points, but this game will change some of the things that happen once things get to 50%. So it will actually change the encounter, which is brilliant. And the layout of the book, I say, it was such a joy to read. There is so few books I pick up that I can actually read. In fact, I don't think this is going to be a big plus for most people, because I think most people can read well. Actually, saying that, from the comments in this channel specifically, I do have an awful lot of comments from dyslexics, so I probably shouldn't say that. But I found this an absolute joy. Ease to read. Say, it didn't tire me. The fonts, the colors, the layouts were it's I can't remember the last time I honestly read a book within a couple of nights where I could just pick it up and just keep reading without the distractions and the difficulty in this. And, you know, absolute credit to Steve for not only the layout, the wording used, the fonts, and the size. So, you know, a huge plus for that. Okay, so what have we got that's bad? I've got 4 things down here. And 2 of them you can ignore. Because the first one was no world. There is no world in this book. And then they go and give you several free books on DTRPG, which I only found as I was about to start recording today. I went into DTRPG because I like to sort of show where people can buy it, get an idea of the cost, and obviously there is an element where I put my affiliate link in there. And then I discovered there are free adventures. I was like, I've got 2 negatives here that I shouldn't mention. But obviously, if you don't have access to DTRPG, well, you wouldn't probably be buying the book. And I was like, but there's no first level adventure. It should be, to me, mandatory that any rule book that you buy has a first level adventure, and there's 2 available for free on DTRPG. So my first 2 negatives don't even exist. The next negative is the roll above and roll below. Now this took me a while to kind of get my head round to it not annoy me, because I like roll under systems. I prefer roll over systems. I'm starting to play an awful lot more roll under systems, and they're really growing on me. But what kind of annoyed me is when I got to combat, I was then rolling over again. But the good thing about that is it's so familiar, because rollover combat is the easiest thing, because I, and probably a lot of us, have been doing it for so long. So you've got this, the best of both worlds. You've got that love of, what I really like about the roll under, I'm turning the negative into a positive now, and I don't mean to be doing that because it is a little bit of a pain. But that roll under system where every attribute has to count, and it makes it harder, so you don't end up with necessarily dump stats. But then you get into combat and you've got to roll over. Can be, because a D20 on everything in the game is an automatic fail, and a 1 is an automatic critical. Apart from in combat, where they flip around the other way. So it is a little bit of a pain, but not the worst thing to find in a game. We've then got the random tables for the randomness for spells I've got here, where there are going to be players that want to pick up a spell and they're not going to find it straight away. And I think you're going to have people that might grumble over the brutality of the spells and the death aspect of the game. Personally, I think it's really nice that it stops people carte blanche, fireball, lightning bolt. There's going to be the impact of... And I didn't show the tables deliberately, because when you've got a D100 random table for things that are going to go bad for players, I don't like showing them in videos. Obviously, if you wanted to go back and pause the video, you're going to get to see it. But let the players discover this themselves. It's also a book, actually, that players and games masters should own. But I'm out of bad. I'm out of bad. The artwork is fantastic. The whole book is full of good. 2 of the bad that I put in aren't even bad, because they've got you covered in another way. The roll in the above and beyond isn't even that bad a thing. It's really not. You get used to it very, very quickly. Oh, and I forgot to share this as well. The Games Master screen, which is not included in my book, is included for free on DTRPG. So this covers, so you got monster custom tables here, supplies, dirty tricks, all the stuff you're going to need in here. The great success, terrible failures, which is the difficulty, reminders on rerolls, moving, crits, fumbles, initiative. It's just so well thought out, incredibly generous. I really dislike what they've done here, because it sets the bar so high for everything else that I read and play from here on in. Is going to be an absolute struggle. This is utterly probably the best single book for a fantasy setting. I've got to put that in because there might be something better. Oh God, does this... I haven't done my score yet, but does this beat Warhammer as a game and a rule system? I would much rather be playing this than Warhammer. Can I adapt this? You can, quite easily, because D20 is the same as a D100. All I've got to do is multiply everything by 5. And then I've got all the skills to roll under in my Warhammer fantasy role-playing setting, with quicker, better, faster rules. Combat, okay. Oh, I've something to think of. Anyway, so I got sidetracked, sorry. Right, scores-wise, this is utterly phenomenal. I think everyone should own this. I can't give it a 10 out of 10, because I don't think a true 10 out of 10 book actually exists. But this is bloody close, absolutely bloody close. I give Tales of Argosa a 9.5 out of 10. You have to go and buy this book. It is that good. And I forgot to say, there are sections in the book where it does say, and I think the other reason why it's really good is that you can bring so much of this to your other campaign, or bring your campaign into this. But it does actually there are sections that say, if you don't like this, just yoink it out and get rid of it. It's an absolutely brilliant book, absolutely brilliant. I've rabbited on way too much. Go and buy it. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. My name's Adrian from Dungeon Dyslexia. Tales of Argosa is possibly the best game of the year. We shall see. We've still got 9.5 months to go on, but it's amazing. Thank you for watching.